So for this series of videos, I'm going to show you how to use Autodesk Maya and a online Adobe application called Mixamo. Um, Mixamo is a nice little way to take a character that you've created, uh, especially if you put it in a T-pose like the sample one I have here. Um, you can take it into Mixamo and it will rig it up for you and also provide you with animation cycles. It's really good for video game design. A lot of the animation cycles that it provides are cycles that you would see in video games. Um, and so you can get your character animated with that cycle. And then if you're using a game engine like Unreal or Unity, you can script it out to play those particular animations when needed. However, you can also use them for animation. Um, so let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is go to, when you've got your file open, go to File, Set Project. It's always a nice thing to do to make sure things are saving where you want them to. I'm going to choose my desktop, this folder, and my Steve folder, and I'm going to hit Set. Then you can do a save scene as if you need to. So I'll just save it as today's date for now, since this is the one I'm currently working on. And what you'll do is if I take my character, which in this case he's one solid object, just extruded all out of a cube. You might have multiple elements over here. Whatever you are trying to take into Mixamo to have it rigged and animated, select them. Then you are going to go to File, Export Selection. And I usually click on this little box so you can make sure that your options are all set. In this case, we want to change this Maya binary file type to an FBX export. And then I usually leave everything else the same. Tell it to Export Selection. It's going to pop up where do you want it saved. Because I set my project, it's trying to save it in my scenes folder, and that's fine for me. I am going to call this Steve Test Mixamo. That way I know which file it is, and I'll hit export. So then what you got to do, let me pull a window over here. So if you're in Google, just type in Mixamo, and then it's mixamo.com. If you click on it, when you get to this screen, if you don't already have an account, tell it to sign up for free, and you can sign up using a standard email address, and then you'll be able to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and log in real quick. And once you've logged in, you should get a screen like this. Like I said, there are many, many animations cycles that have been created, and you can do a search for different types. So obviously they have genres here. I can do walk, and it'll pull up all these different walk cycles. So that's under the animation tab. Characters, oops, let me take out walk, but they have pre-made characters as well if you want to use those. For us, though, we are going to try to bring in our little blocky character, but I'll just show you what it does. Like if I choose this guy and tell it to use this character, brings it in here. Go to animation. I choose the animation. Now it takes that character and it applies the animation. Then I can actually download that character animated for use. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to hit upload character, which is going to allow me to bring in the character I just exported. I'm going to hit select character file, go to my folder where it saved my FBX, and it was Steve Test Mixamo. So I'm going to click on that. Once it brings it in, it will look something like this, or whatever your character looks like. Some of the key things, try to keep some space between the legs of the character. Try to keep the arms. This is always a nice way to go to T-pose for whether you're rigging in here or in Maya itself. T-pose is always a nice way to go. Next, I'm going to go ahead and click it. Then it's going to ask you, okay, put these points where these particular points on the character are. So for the chin, I'm going to go ahead and put it right about there. For wrists, I'm going to go ahead and put it right about there. And you can compare your own body to your character if your character is kind of more like a human. Otherwise, if you've got a unique character, a unique biped character, that's the one thing you got to have. You can put these points where you need to. So you have the chin, the wrist, the elbows, the knees, and then the groin. When you hit next, it's going to run its little algorithm to try to rig it. It may give you an error saying that these points aren't on the actual face of the character. So you may have to shift them to make sure that they are actually on. So like if I move this down too far, it may register it as not touching a face. So I just bring it up a little bit. I'm going to hit next. It'll take a couple moments to do so. And as it's doing that, hopefully we get lucky and it doesn't give us any errors. But once it finishes, it should show us a sample of our character kind of looking around, slightly moving. For some reason, it always drops it below the floor. No worries, but it is working. Now you will notice it's not a perfect setup with this blocky character. It's basically trying to take his blocky shape and make it bend and such like a biped character would. For moving around in here, if you hold the middle mouse button on your the middle mouse wheel down on your mouse, you can pan and move around to make sure he's in view. Scroll the mouse wheel forward and backwards to zoom in and out. And then just hit next. It says your character's been uploaded. Hit next. And now, because I had an animation already chosen, it put it on there. But I can basically choose any animation I want. Oops. Okay, that was the right one. And it will try to apply it based off of the rig it created. Again, this character is not perfectly set up for use with this, but it still serves the purpose. It's showing how the character gets rigged up. So you can go through here, you can find what you want to do, or what animation you need. And depending on what you're using it for, you might be able to find every animation you need. So now I'm going to pick one a little less intense. This one will work for right now. Or actually, you know what? Let's just do a basic walk. I'm going to keep a basic walk for some other things I want to show y'all. All right, so I've got my little walk character. Now, a couple options that we are going to mess with throughout these videos. We are going to look at the mirror option, which if I click it, in this case, doesn't really do much, but it can reverse the direction that the character is walking, or flip it. In place makes the character just walk in place, and this is good if you really just want a animation cycle. And so I'm going to show you all how to use this one in a little bit in another video. but for right now, we'll just have him walk this way. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hit download. So if you find the one you want, hit download. Depending on what you are going to use it for, if you're putting it into, in this case, Maya, which defaults to 30 frames per second, it works for us, but you can adjust it based off of what you're doing. Video games are usually at 60 frames per second. Standard animation is usually 24. So depending on what you're going to do with it, I'm going to tell it to keep the skin, do another FBX, and I'm going to hit download. When it downloads, it'll tell you the name, and usually the name relates to whatever it was titled over here. Then we will go back to Maya. I'm going to actually go ahead and create a new scene. And I'm going to do a save scene as. I'll call this Steve Walk. I'm going to hit save. It's already, because I set my project previously, it's already saving where I need it. And now I'm going to do File, Import, and I need to go to my Downloads folder because that's where it should have put my downloaded Mixamo piece. And it's called walking.fbx. Click on that. It brings in my character. Now, if I hit play, he walks really, really fast. So what I'm going to do to fix that, I'm going to right click down in my timeline. If you don't see your timeline here, go to workspace up here. It should be under general to match mine and tell it to reset current workspace. Then you should see your timeline. I'm going to right click in the timeline, go to playback speed, play every frame max real time. That'll slow it down to the speed. All right. So now we've got our character. If I want to make sure his texture's on him, I just come up to this little spot on my window. If I hover over it, it's a circle that looks like a checkerboard. If I click it, it applies this texture. Now I've got a walking character. All right, so you may also notice all of his joints, his bones that it created for his rig are there. They're kind of in the way. What I'm going to do is go to Display, Animation, Joint Size. I'm going to drop this down. I'm going to try like 0.01, and that'll hide it. So now I can see my character without the joints. Now the joints won't appear when you render. So the joints won't show, but they do get in the way when you're trying to actually do anything with it. All right, so now if that is all you are trying to do, you want to bring in one character, animated, and in this case, you're trying to animate them in a scene. So I made this little character walking or whatever. I could just start then building my scene around them. So maybe I have them walking in front of a building or whatever. So I can go ahead and start building my scene. And then later on, I can set up my cameras and all that good stuff. That is how you can do real simple animated pieces using Mixamo and Maya together. However, you may want to bring multiple characters, and I'll show you kind of what I mean, an issue that we'll run into. Let me go back over to Mixamo. I'm going to pick a jump animation. So let's choose this jump. That'll work. I'm going to hit download. Just download it as is. It's going to be called, oh, it's going to be called jump. If I go back into Maya and I do a file import and I bring in jump, what it does is it winds up messing everything up. It does not bring in my other one. It tries to mix the rig. So in the next video, I'll show you how to bring multiple characters into one scene. But at least for right now, you can bring in one character. All right, see you in the next video.